Hey, what's up my ninja brothers and sisters? Today we're going to be covering Katsu and I'm back in Belgium. Last week I didn't upload a video because I just came back from Vietnam, so I had to practice a little bit for the Flesh and Blood Nationals. Now I'm a little bit caught up. I'm starting to feel properly rested again after all that jet lag and training and all the work that went along with the Nationals. And I brought Katsu to Nationals even though that I was fully aware that it's not a top tier deck. Like if I wanted to go for something really top tier, I should probably have gone with Lexi, which I do have all the cards for, but I am a little bit of a ninja loyalist and I have a bit of a mindset, if you cannot win with your favorite deck, is it worth winning at all, you know? So I brought Katsu anyway and I had a lot of fun and a lot of great matchups. All my games were very close. Unfortunately, despite them being close, I lost quite a lot of them, mainly because some of my big payoffs, like the Art of Wars that I have in the deck right here, they never showed up. Like in my 6 games of CC, was it 6 games? Yeah, it was 6 games of CC. I only had Art of Wars show up once in all of those games. If they had shown up earlier, I would probably have won, but it is what it is, and on top of that, I did have some breaking issues. So what have I changed in the deck? In my previous iteration of Katsu, I was talking about value Katsu in general and that I wasn't really a fan of running multiple copies of things like Whelming Gustwave and Surging Strikes because in my experience, and this was quite evident in the Nationals as well, if you draw into multiple of these, like the yellows are okay, you can pitch them, but if you draw into multiple red Surging Strikes or you have like a full hand of Whelming Gustwaves, you kind of lose the game and you cannot really do much at all, which is something that did unfortunately happen to me in the Nationals because I ended up putting them in here anyway because I changed my mindset a little bit that I prefer to have more consistency, to have my combo fully set up out of my games rather than being too worried about the brick hands. Unfortunately, I did get the brick hands. I did end up in a situation where I drew all my Descendant Gustwaves, for example, which is kind of a nothing to do scenario because they all cost 1, so you cannot discard them to Katsu. And I did end up into some situations where I ended up drawing into multiple Whelming Gustwaves with no real way of a combo starter, not even in Cecil Empowerment, so I could crack my Breeze Rider Boots. So the Breeze Rider Boots, also a new addition. Normally I would run Snapdragon Skills in my Katsu decks, but the Breeze Rider Boots, they kind of mitigate the damage that having too many of these in the deck gives, because with this you can very easily give go again to a Whelming Gustwave, especially if you tag in for 3 with Whelming Gustwave, you install some empowerment for +1, it hits, you can crack the boots to give it go again, and then you can still go into your Bond of Ancestry line. Maybe if you have 2 bonds, you can even banish something like a Descendant Gustwave from your graveyard in order to be able to go for the full bonds combo line twice. So right now I'm running 6 copies of bonds, so the 3 red ones and the 2 yellows, and I still have a blue bonds right here in the sideboard. The blue bonds I don't really side into the deck all that much. The only times that I bring it into is if I'm up against an Icelander, for example, or if I go for the Master Bouncing Links against those decks that like to block a little bit too much. Then I have a nice 2 attack that I can fetch with the Master Bouncing Links and the Bond of Ancestry by itself with this banishing effect. If you banish something like a Philosopher's, this is just a 6 attack, so you can get 6 value out of your Master Bouncing Links with ease by putting this into your deck. And we have a bunch of other 2 drops like another Yellow Descent Gustwave, 100 Winds and Whelming Gustwave. So if we end up in a situation where we need either of these, then we can always pop the Master Bouncing Links to go ahead and fetch those from the deck to continue our combo line and get a big turn like that. I'm running Reinforce the Line again alongside the Flick Flags. I used to run Sink Below in this slot, but I think Reinforce the Line is just better in general because it helps you to play around Dominate effects. And right now with Bravo being quite popular again, having this available to be able to stop the Dominate, especially all the Crush effect from Starstruck as things called in the Crippling Crush. This has been quite clutch. Like all my Bravo matchups so far, I have had quite a good matchup, I would say. So I think I'm going to be keeping the Reinforcer lines. I might cut one of them in favor of a 3rd copy of Double Strike because I do run AB3 in this list with the Lantern, the Gloves and the Tide Flippers, but I'm still thinking, like I haven't really seen all that much Kano. The last time that I faced a Kano in a competitive event was all the way back in the Pro Tour in Lille, and I feel like I'm kind of wasting my Arcane Barrier slots for a matchup that I don't really see, that I could probably use to kind of fine-tune my sideboard a little bit, maybe put in some more 6 attacks for the Draw Mine matchup and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit wondering there what I want to do. As far as putting in the Master Pouncing Links package with all the 2 attacks, the yells and the blue Bonds of Ancestry, that has been working out quite well for me, especially against those really heavy aggro decks that we keep seeing, like Vince said. Like the Master Pouncing Links has been quite clutch, so I do plan to keep on using this package as is. So I think as far as the sideboarding goes, this is probably how I want to keep the sideboard. I have the flexibility to bring the Art of Wars to go for a full aggro Katsu plan, but I also have the flexibility to just bring the Flick Flex and the Reinforce the Lines, kind of give up on the Art of Wars to play more of a control-y plan against things like Bravo, like I mentioned earlier. So I'm quite happy with the deck. I think the deck is in a very good spot and very well positioned against a lot of the top decks out there, especially against decks like Lexi. If you can get your Art of War early, and you can get it before they start popping off with the 3 of a kinds, you are probably going to be winning that match. So it becomes a bit of a coin flip match, like who gets their big combo key piece early. Like, do you get your Art of War early? Do they get the 3 of a kind early? But having Art of War in here has been extremely powerful, especially in combination with the Master Momentum. Being able to get those 3 hits in with the Art of War active is actually quite easy. Being able to get a hit in with something like Be Like Water also becomes a lot easier thanks to the Art of War. So I'm quite happy with it, because right now with Art of War we have 3 Ancestral Empowerments, the 1 Razor Reflex and 3 copies of Art of War. That means we have 7 cards in the deck that are potentially able to push an attack by at least 1 attack to be able to get it to hit and to be able to activate Katsu to discard something, fetch something straight from the deck. It makes it very consistent. I'm also very happy with running the full 6 copies of Flusterfist. Being able to block with a blue Flusterfist early on makes it very nice, so that we can banish the blue one to fetch a red one straight from the deck for the Bond of Ancestry play. I haven't been able to get the full Dishonor combo line off at once, like it never happened. Like the times that I did have Dishonor available, that I could Dishonor the opponent, they still had cards now that they would be able to block it, and then I would rather just go for something like another Descending Ghost Wave into something like a Flusterfist for more damage in general. Warmonger's Diplomacy, I brought it specifically for the Lexi matchup because it has a very good matchup against Lexi. I even ended up cutting my Mind State of Tigers, which have been working very well for me with the Art of War combo that I talked about previously, that you can use the Crouching Tiger to banish it to draw 2 so you don't lose a card in hand, or you can discard the Crouching Tiger in order for you to pay for your Katsu activation. And I have to say, even though Warmonger's Diplomacy is a very strong card, and people are in the right to say that this card is a little bit overpowered in general, but when I played against Lexis, for example, they are now bringing the, what's the thing called again? The trench coat. I forgot the full name of the trench coat, but basically the trench coat very easily lets them put whatever is in the arsenal on the bottom of the deck, and then they can kind of play around the Warmonger's Diplomacy by just choosing War, putting the thing from the arsenal on the bottom, and then going from there by just activating the weapon anyways with a completely open up arsenal. So I feel the Warmonger's Diplomacy, even though it's good and it makes people play around it, I feel like since people are already playing around it, maybe it's possible to just open the slot for something else, like maybe another combo line to put in here. So I'm not 100% sure if I will keep running them at 3. They're very powerful when everything lines up well, but since people are playing around it, I don't know what to say about it. Like, it's good to have it as a very strong card, but I haven't had as much success with it as other people seem to claim. It's not the play it, get a free turn kind of card a lot of people say that it is, so I don't know, like I'm probably wrong. This is very strong against Bolton though. If you played against Bolton on the right turn, you just put this in Arsenal and you wait for them to have a turn where you notice that they're not blocking as much. You just play this at the end of your combat chain and then that kind of screws them over. It's also quite good against Runeblade decks where you play this at the end of your combat chain and then Briar and such cannot really do much anymore, but Briar's going away. Vincent does get a little bit in trouble because if you play Warmonger's Diplomacy against Vincent, then they are fully dependent on the rune gate and usually they will not be able to get enough rune chance to be able to play around it, so maybe I should keep it, maybe I don't. It's still a 3 block, it's still a 0 cost, so, and it's a blue, so in Ninja is probably the best deck to be running this in, but I just really miss my Mindset of Tigers and there's not really much else I could cut in here. Maybe I'm just being biased that I want to find a reason to cut these to put my Mind States back, but yeah, that's pretty much all there. All in all, the deck is very powerful. You can do your full combo line, usually at least once a game, sometimes twice, where you're surging into any of the Gust Waves, into Bonds, into another Gust Wave, into another Bonds, and then something like a Philosopher's or a Dishonor. And you also have a lot of very cool combo potential where you surging Whelming Bonds, you banish something like 100 Winds or a Winds of Eternity, and then you 100 Winds into Winds of Eternity for a massive 7 damage. And this combo line is quite good because the Winds of Eternity, if it hits, it does let you put the 100 winds that you just attacked with back into the deck, which allows for some extra recursion later on where you can pull off that 7 damage combo line at least twice or even 3 times in a single game, which is something that I'm a real fan of and I really like a lot. And for the last start, I used to run the new Rising Heel Kick. Is it called Rising Heel Kick? The 4 go again for 1 cost. I'm now running the Soul Beat Strikes instead, mainly because of the 3 block. I do feel with Katsu you want to be blocking a little bit more than I would normally do, and since we're only running 3 Flick Flags, I think running these over the Heel Kicks is probably better in general. It's a 3 attack, it's still a 4 attack, so the opponent does need to kind of respect it. If you play it as your first attack in your turn and you still have 1 card in hand, they don't know what that last card is, so they do need to respect it, especially if you're running something like a Multi-Pouncing Lynx, because if this hits and you can crack the mask, you can discard to fetch a combo piece, you can crack your boots for example, you can very easily go for something like a Whelming Yellow into a Bonds of Ancestry. You don't even need to pitch for that. You have go again on the Whelming, you play the Bonds of Ancestry blue, and then you can fetch yourself a Philosopher straight from the deck. So having this in the deck as a 4 attack does mean that the opponent needs to respect it all the time. They cannot let this hit, because if it hits you can just buff a damage out of nowhere at them, and if they do fully block it, you can just put your last cards right into your arsenal ready for a future turn. And since we have so many good blues in here, like none of the blues are bad in the arsenal other than the Philosophers. You don't want to put Philosophers in the arsenal, but Wind of Eternity on the arsenal is fine. You're going to find 100 wins eventually anyways. Having the Warmonger's Diplomacy in the arsenal is also fine, this Whelming as well, so having these blues in the arsenal is not a problem with attacking with the Soul Beat Strike and a fully block. Just the Philosophers, don't put it in there. A 2 attack at the end of the combat chain is not that impactful. It's probably better to just keep it in hand, so in the next turn you can Kodachi and then go into something else, or at least have the blue available to be able to pay for a Surging Strike. As far as the Fiandal Spring Tuning, if you're a budget player, I do think you don't really need this card. You can definitely cut the Fiandal Spring Tuning out there if you don't want it. The Command and Conquers, I don't really use them for the effect. It's mostly as a Phantasm Popper against Dromai, and I guess against Azalea they're kind of good, but there aren't that many Azaleas in the format right now, so you could very easily cut this for a different budget pick, like any 6 attack will do. Even a 7 attack would probably be better, like the Fiandal's Fighting Spirits, where you can pop something and still gain a life while at it, so do replace these if you don't have them. And the Fiandal Spring Tune is basically here for the the Icelander matchup, where you have 3 resources on then if they activate the headpiece where they make you discard a card, you can actually just use the resource from this to pay for it, which is quite nice. And other than that, I think the Artifice you do need, similar to my fight deck tags in the past, so the Artifice are not really negotiable. They're expensive, I know, but TCGs aren't cheap, and I think if you can build yourself a budget deck with just the Art of Wars, then you probably still in the 100-200 range with this deck. The One Mongoose Diplomacies, like I mentioned earlier, I'm still wondering if I should keep them up, mainly because people are playing around them. So you could cut these, just put the Mind States of Tigers in here, but then you do need the Art of Wars for sure, so please don't cut these. The deck is not going to perform all that well. You will have a lot of games that are very close to finishing, like I did in Nationals, but then you don't really have that last bit of a push to be able to close the game properly. And then other budget picks, the Muzzle Momentum, you don't really need it if you run the Master Pouncing Links. It's fine against most matchups. There's definitely something to be said to have the constant threat of having that third unhit to force the opponent to block is quite nice, but the Moss is quite expensive, and if you're a budget player, you can cut this, the value you get out of your mask. In most games you also get it out of your Master Pouncing Link, so it should be fine to just not run this at all. There has even been some time in my Katsu optimizing where I was kind of wondering, like, should I just cut the Master Pouncing, cut the Master Momentum completely and just put the Pouncing Links in here so I have an extra deck slot available, but I don't know. I have the Golden Mask, the Cold Foil, and I really want to play it, so I'm a little bit biased towards to continue running the mask, so I have it in here. But it would be quite nice to have something like the Tiger Stripe Shuko in here as a 2-block against the Guardian deck, especially because I don't really have room for that right now. And right now I am running the Breaking Skills, the +1. It comes really clutch with the Red Whelming Gust Waves again. You give +1, the Whelming Gust Wave hits, you give a go again with the Breeze Rider Boots, and then you can continue your combo like that. I'm rambling on right now. I think this is probably a good spot to end the video. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for everyone that keeps on sending well-performing Katsu decks into me to have a look at. That has been a real inspiration, especially all the people that have been winning the Battle Hardened and Nationals around the world. Like, I do look at other Katsu lists to see which ones are performing well, to get some inspiration for my own list as well. And I have to say, I was completely wrong in regards to the Surging Strike, Whelming combo lines. Like, I was trying to play the deck a little bit too safe, like I didn't want to break at all, and my earlier value Katsu decks, they didn't brick all that much. Like, it was very rare to brick with that deck. But now I think it's probably better to be lucky than consistent. Like, being lucky and being able to get your double Bonds of Ancestors return is probably more important than having that full inconsistency and having so many different combo lines to manage. Like this, the combo line management is very easy. You either have a Bonds of Ancestors return, or you have 100 Winds into Winds of Eternity turn, and the Fluster Fist, they are just pure extra damage. So it's very easy to manage your combo lines, very easy to keep track of what do I have left, especially if you know that you have 5 of these in your deck and 3 of each of these. So you can just look at your graveyard, look at your banished zone, and you can constantly keep in mind and keep track of what do I still have left in the deck. If I do play the Bonds of Ancestry, which combo lines can I go for? And once you have mastered that, you should be doing quite well with Katsu. I think once Lexi is gone, the deck is probably going to perform a little bit worse. I would say that the Lexi matchup is actually a little bit favored towards Katsu, simply because there are so many on-hit triggers with the Muzzle Momentum and the Katsu triggers to be able to fix your combo line. So the Lexi matchup for me hasn't really been all that problematic. I've been having quite a good time against it. So once Lexi is gone, I do think this deck will perform a little bit worse, because there's more decks that have on-hit triggers that make you discard and stuff, which is something you don't really want to do as a Katsu player. But until then, I think Lexi is going to be around for at least one more season, so have fun with this deck. If you like this video, please let me know down in the comments. My engagement on my Flesh and Blood videos has been quite low. Like, there hasn't been all that many comments, so I have been considering sometimes, like, should I stop making videos because people don't really enjoy them as much as I thought they did. But If you enjoy my videos, let me know down in the comments. Leave a comment down there, like the video, and let me know what you want me to do next on the channel. I'm probably going to be focusing mostly on Ninja and Warrior content going forward. Not going to do so many other deck tags anymore. That helps me to stay nice and focused and being able to give you the best Ninja decks that are out there, at least the ones that I think are the best. Anyway, thank you for watching again, and see you all soon with another Flesh and Blood video. Take care.